Hello there. Super excited to be here today. I wish I could be there in person, of course, in Basel, but instead, I have my background with a little Swiss background there for you. But today, what we're talking about, cyber attacks. Is your organization ready for the next big attack? So I've got a lot to cover today. So let's jump right in. This is where I'd rather be. Instead, I'm stuck in Vancouver in the cold and the wet. A little bit about myself. I'm the channel development manager here at Kaseya. You can find some of my info there. If you do have a phone handy, grab that phone, scan that QR code in the corner. I'll put it up again at the end of the presentation, but definitely follow me. I post a lot of content that you can obviously repurpose and share with your IT team. So a little bit about us. I look after the Vancouver office. I'm based in Canada. We have our head offices in Miami, where you can find the Kaseya Center. We're the world's leading provider of MSP delivered IT solutions. So I'm guessing a lot of the people out there today work with an IT service provider or an MSP, and that's typically where we do a lot of our business. And our mission is to empower the world's small and medium-sized businesses with the best in enterprise level technology. So that's just a little bit about us in case you were wondering. But let's dive right in. So what do I actually talk about? I talk about different types of attacks, different types of attacks we're seeing in the industry, going across the world. And a lot of these are quite scary, to be honest, whether we're talking about Microsoft Teams getting attacked, Quishing attacks, which is QR code phishing, NFTs. The threats are happening. They're happening quicker, and they're happening more painfully to businesses than ever before. If we're looking at cyber crimes as a GDP, I always like to put this in all my talks because this really gives a lot of perspective to everyone listening. If we're looking at GDP by 2025, we'd be looking at the USA with the largest GDP on earth with about $20 trillion. China's second with 14 trillion. And you can see Canada down there on the far right with 2.6 trillion. But if we're looking at cyber crimes, if you can believe it, cyber crimes as a GDP will be $10.5 trillion by 2025. So it'll be the third largest economy on earth. And this is not slowing down anytime soon. Super scary to hear that. But what I'm getting at right now is that with cyber crimes, the genie is out of the bottle, so to speak. So these cyber attacks are happening. They're happening more and more often. And they're actually happening against small and medium-sized businesses more. It used to be the large-scale enterprises that were getting attacked. And now small and medium-sized businesses are getting attacked. And why that is, they're going after the low-hanging fruit. They know that the large-scale enterprise often have cybersecurity solutions in place. They have a whole IT team ready to protect them, and it's not easy to breach. So they're going after those small and medium-sized businesses. If we're looking at attacks that are continuing to rise, we're looking at a 600% increase in cyber attacks since the start of COVID. This is pretty scary stuff. 92.7, that's ransomware attacks that have nearly doubled this past year. And like I mentioned, for the third time, I got to reiterate this. The main target they're going after, small and medium-sized businesses. In 2022, we still haven't got the numbers out for 2023 yet, but we're seeing the trend forecasting upwards. Small and medium-sized businesses for the first year ever were attacked more than large-scale enterprises. And when I say they were attacked, a lot of that was coming down to phishing and, of course, ransomware. We've probably all seen some of these in the news over the past year or two. Some of the big attacks, whether it was Volkswagen, the U.S. Homeland Security introduces a guide to enhance cyber incident reporting because there's so many scary things going on in the world. Nowadays, if you are a public company and you're hit with a cyber attack, you legally have to report it in the US, and Europe's been doing that for several years. Whether it's the huge attack on MGM Grand in Las Vegas that recently happened, or maybe we could see Cisco's largest acquisition ever in the cyberspace at $28 billion. Cybersecurity is something that I've been involved with for the last couple years. It's a growing industry because cyber criminals, sadly, are growing in number, not decreasing. And when we're talking about cyber criminals, 91% of cyber attacks actually start with a phishing email. And 80% of ransomware attacks also involve a phishing email. And these all have some type of human element around them. What does that mean? It means someone's actually clicking on a link and giving up their credentials or information. And of course, I said I was going to mention some stats that might shock you. And here's probably the scariest one. 80% of ransomware victims were small businesses. I talked about that earlier, how the trend is going toward small and medium-sized businesses these days. But this is the figure that should scare everybody. 60% of small businesses will go out of business within a year of a successful ransomware attack. I couldn't believe that when I heard this year. So small and medium-sized businesses that make up the bulk of the world, have the potential to go out of business if there's a successful ransom attack that happens. Whether we're looking at attacks close to home or with charities, say the children was recently attacked, and charities are looked at as easy targets. Often their money is going towards the people and not towards protecting the house or the home, so to speak, and often little or no cybersecurity solutions in place. And what they're going after employees' information and PII. The days of hoping and praying your business won't get attacked are definitely long gone, sadly. If we're talking about other types of attacks that have happened recently, this is a sad one too. Sick Kids is the largest pediatric hospital in Canada. And after I just had a son this past year, this one specifically hit home really close to me. And I cannot believe that hospitals and schools are now getting attacked. And people say, well, why are they going after hospitals and schools? Once again, they're easy targets for information. When we're talking about NGOs that are getting hit with ransomware, we're seeing these happen more and more. We saw churches, mosques, synagogues attacked during the pandemic, and we had never seen attacks like this before. And now they're going after NGOs because they realize that this is a place where they can exploit and hopefully get information. So it comes down to having the right tools in place. That's a big thing. I always say when I'm talking to businesses, do you have the right tools to protect your house? And if you don't know what the NIST cybersecurity framework is, NIST is the National Institute of Standards and Technology. This is a non-for-profit, and they are looking to help businesses protect their house, protect their home, protect their business, and make sure that if they are attacked, they're ready for what's next. Here's some of how our solutions fall into the identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover. Another great slide to take a photo if you've got your camera ready. So when we're talking about security tools, people say, well, Miles, so what do I need as a baseline? And here's just a few examples. So Bullfish ID, our security awareness training and phishing simulation. I always say you need to be doing security awareness training. It's right now less than 50% of businesses are actually doing this. And we would rather you fail and obviously give up your password or give up your information on a test than with the real cyber criminals. And that's why security awareness training and phishing simulation is so important. Dark web ID, you need to find out what is on the dark web. A lot of companies have information on the dark web, and we can obviously do that by employing dark web ID and finding out who is that weakest link in the business. When we're talking about phishing, I mentioned earlier that 91% of attacks start with a phishing email. That's why an AI-based phishing solution is really key to a business. And then if you have the money, and you have those deeper pockets, coming up with a managed security operations center or a managed SOC is key. Moving forward for 2024, pen testing is something that every business is going to be asked if they're doing, especially if you want to get insurance. This is something that might become mandatory for 2024. Some type of pen testing has to be done by businesses. And what pen testing is, if you don't know, it's our ethical hackers actually going into the system and figuring out where there is areas that can be exploited by cyber criminals. I had to bring in the top 10, of course, and here's a top 10 for any business. This is something every business should be doing. Security awareness training, ideally 10 to 12 times per year. You got to be backing up your data, and you got to educate yourself. It's not just the IT department now that is going to be the weakest link in the cyber hygiene. It's everybody. Keeping that software updated, installing and updating security software, and using strong passwords. I have to go over this over and over again in my talks. No password recycling. Don't use the same password on Amazon as you do on your work computer. Enabling two-factor authentication, or MFA, multi-factor authentication, is key. Scan the dark web for compromises. Make sure you don't have information on there. Obviously, investing in a managed SOC if you can afford it, and doing 1 to 2 pen tests per year. Those are essential. And those are our top 10 tips. When we're talking about, cybersecurity awareness training, this is what we do. We look at the most impersonated brands, and we actually send out emails based on brands that you actually work with to try and see if we can stump you. That's part of what security awareness training is. And this is what I say. You're not small to be a target. You're not too small to be a target for cyber criminals. You're only too small to make headline news. I hear so many stories of businesses getting attacked that never make the headlines. And people think that, oh, well, it's not going to be me that's getting attacked. But really right now, it's not a matter of if, but when. Businesses are getting attacked everywhere, every city, every country. And doesn't matter what you do, you're not going to be immune. Lastly, if you want to request a demo or hear more information, please scan that QR code, grab the phone, put it up to request a demo. And obviously, at the end of the day, if you want to reach out, I'd love to chat more about how you're doing and what you're doing with your cybersecurity, because this is something that's going to affect everyone, and it's going to only get worse in the coming years. Lastly, if you want to scan that QR code, you can connect up to me and my LinkedIn. I post a lot of content that you can share with your IT departments. And I really appreciate you taking the time to spend this 9 or 10 minutes with me chatting about what's going on in the cybersecurity world. Hope all is well. I wish I was in Switzerland. And there's my 10 minutes. Thanks so much.